Hi, Naila.
Hey, Kathleen, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being willing to talk with me today. We at the National Equity Project are doing a series of interviews like this that we're calling Rebel Leader Interviews, with the idea that this moment that we're in with the global pandemic offers us an opportunity to pause and to reimagine how our systems operate and how we can think about meeting the needs of young people. So we're thrilled to have you. We want to hear from leaders and practitioners and scholars who've been doing this work for a long time. And just want to get started by having you maybe just say a word about who you are, and then we can jump right in.
Okay, great. Happy to be here. I'm Suad Nasir. I am currently the president of the Spencer Foundation, which is a foundation that funds education research nationally, and also a scholar of education and of race in education.
Great. So I thought we'd just jump right in, and I want to ask you, how are you experiencing this moment through the lens of young people and learning and racialized experience with schools?
Yeah, great question. It's been such an interesting moment on so many dimensions. One, slowing down, which is just in and of itself kind of a challenge. But also this space where families get to come together and engage in learning activities in a whole different way than than the busyness of our normal routines allow us. And I've been thinking a lot about what it means to recenter the family in how we think about learning and teaching and learning. And on the one hand, it's happening under incredible stress. Like parents are working in one room and kids are schooling in another room. And, there's people are worried about employment and paying bills. And so there's this overlay of stress, but underneath that, there's also this opportunity for connection that I think is pretty extraordinary. And so I think there's all of these tensions this moment holds, and that's one of them. And thinking about how we tend to sideline families in schools and in the educational process, the centering of them holds a new kind of possibility, including thinking about how we sideline particular families more than others, right? So some families are viewed as having the kind of cultural capital that would be able to support their kids doing well in school. Other families are viewed as being a problem for schooling. But all of those families are holding fundamental schooling responsibilities right now. So how does that shift how we've been thinking about that?
Yeah, and even hearing you say that, I think about my own experience as in a middle-class white family. My experience of the institution of school is that the assets we're supposed to bring is just to help our kids push through and survive the way it's designed. It's not as though I feel like who I am or who our family is seen as an asset. It's more that because we can bring dominant culture ways of being into the school, we're not seen as a problem.
Right. Yeah. Which I think adds to the complexity, the way families are being positioned and the way young people experience school. Because I think what's been kind of an open secret about schools, and I would say middle and high schools probably even more so, is that young people aren't experiencing them by and large as places that see them, as places where they can grow and engage and learn and be authentic. And so this moment opens up spaces where learning isn't so connected to the institution of school. I think about my own son as an example, who's been really using this time to learn the things he wants to learn, taking courses online, and he's started 2 businesses, and he's really embracing the moment as this gift of time. And he'll do the schoolwork, like he'll log on, they have to log on by noon. His alarm is set for 11:52. Wake up, log on, knock the schoolwork out, and then do the kinds of engaged learning and thinking he wants to do. And my son is a Black boy, and so for him, school holds a particular additional burden of navigating race and gender of being viewed as a potential problem, as a potential threat. And that management, he doesn't have to do in this moment, which,
yeah,
again, it's just interesting, you know, as hard as things are, and I'm not minimizing how tough things are nationally for families, for young people in making this transition, as hard as things are, this opens up a space for him still to be human,
yeah,
right? Not to be so severely racialized.
right. And what do you, like, as you think about that and as you see your own son thriving in some ways without the burden of the formal school structure where he's have to manage and monitor himself as a Black male in a school that may or may not see or value him, what's to learn there? What should we as leaders, as educators, be learning from that? And how should we be thinking about that as we think about meeting young people where they are and reimagining our systems?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we need to be thinking about. First of all, as people who are the creators of systems, we need to be thinking about what is there to learn from young people and the way that they're authentically engaged in learning spaces. What is there to be learned from families and the way that they are blending learning with cultural practices, with values, with togetherness, with connection, and how might we then think about recreating, reconfiguring our systems to bring that humanness back to the core, to bring that sense of love and connection and high regard for humanity to the core of what we do with young people in schools. And I think those lessons have to do partly with trusting them to engage in learning on their own terms. I think we are at an end of a continuum, an extreme end of a continuum around overstructuring, micromanaging, testing. There's a sense of needing to control young people's bodies, minds, time, focus. And I feel like what we're seeing is when you open the aperture and when young people feel free, they learn amazing things in ways that are resonant with who they are and who they want to be. And I think there's something really powerful to capture about that and to create spaces where more freedom exists. And we know this to some degree, like schools do, project-based learning, places where people can, choose an area of interest, take a deep dive into it. But there's also something about opening the structures and the time horizons. It may be that the 45-minute class periods is not the best way for people to think and engage.
It may be. Well, so all of what you said resonates. I'm wondering if I'm an educator, a teacher, an administrator, what are the moves I need to be making now to start to create that opening of the aperture? What do I need to be doing, thinking about?
Yeah, I think thinking about how we create more space in school rhythms. So whether that be thinking about what kind of courses are required, what's the set of requirements, or whether that be what a teacher does in a classroom when there's a certain, piece of content to be covered. Just think in broader ways about how those things might be accomplished. Of course, we need a certain amount of structure, we need a certain amount of coverage, we need to make sure young people are well-rounded, that they get kind of the basics. But how do we also make schools a space where kids want to learn and where young people are accepted for the range of skill sets and strengths and assets that they and their families bring? It's such a nice, there's such a nice possibility right now to open a space to think about strengths, to think about resilience, to think about how people naturally, across racial, culture, gender lines, how people naturally adapt and create what they need. And how do we align with that rather than work in opposition to it as systems?
I love that. I'm feeling inspired listening to you, truly. I'm wondering if your son were here, what would he tell us about things that we would do to get started in schools to make that true? What do you think he would say?
Yeah, I think he would probably be focused on the classroom experience, because for him, for him, the work that's so highly structured requires him to engage it in inauthentic ways.
Yeah.
So
right.
I think there's something about like, and he both wants, I think sometimes young people engage academic work, not bringing their full selves to it. Yes. And then schools judge them based on the quality of that work.
Yes.
This is not the case with my son, but I'm thinking more generally, yes. Right? That opening the space for people to learn the things that they're really interested in, to engage in the ways that they really want to, and assume that they actually have the intellectual capacity to do that. And that their unwillingness to compromise and do some of the busy work we're putting in front of them is not actually a lack of intelligence. It's actually perhaps a display of intelligence and integrity, right? Yeah. And in some ways, there's a danger, like this remote learning could, in some ways, it can go both ways. On the one hand, I get, we're very concerned as people running systems about learning loss, about who falls behind, about who's marginalized, about transitions to college, and all of those kind of things at the systems level. On the other hand, the way that we've engaged remote learning, some of it is just worksheets on the screen.
Right.
And that, while, young people may appreciate it because they can get through it faster and get to the other stuff, we actually could be thinking about how we utilize the remote learning platforms in richer, more authentic ways. And I think that if I were sitting with a group of, school superintendents, I think figuring that piece out is what's potentially really exciting. How to use all of the different technologies and learning platforms available to engage learning in richer, more expansive ways.
I love that. And so I'm definitely hearing you say, open things up, build from the strengths and the resilience and the true interest that young people have, and really use this opportunity as a moment to rethink some of the things that we've just taken as a given in our schools that we know are actually limiting the potential of our young people by the way we do it, and particularly harmful for kids who are marginalized within larger systems.
And not assuming everyone has the same experience. Right. Not accepting young people's perspectives on their experience and their needs as being real sources of important information.
Yes, I love that. So partnering with our young people to do this. It's not about adults off in a room and figuring it out, but let's listen to them and co-design it with them.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you for taking time out. I know that you are doing all manner of work right now to respond to this moment. And so I really appreciate you taking time with us to share some of your ideas. I think as I said, I feel inspired by what you just articulated in these few minutes.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you, Kathleen.
All right. Talk to you soon, Naila. Take care.
Okay. Bye.